Welcome into Load the Box. We are going to sort of recap how we feel about our predictions, Jordan. I don't think either of us feel awesome, if we're just being honest with ourselves. We made some, bold predictions preseason, win-loss record for the Vikings. Then, of course, the 14 playoff teams in aggregate. We can go over those and mock ourselves in plenty here soon. But, Jordan, I think probably the most appropriate place to start is to talk about the football team that this show is about, which is the Minnesota Vikings, who find themselves at 5-0, first place in the NFC, and of course first place in the NFC North, which is on the line this upcoming Sunday against Detroit. But Jordan, preseason, neither of us thought this team would be this good. I think you had a little more hope than I did. But where this team is right now compared to where you felt they would be after 5 games is what?
I'm going to say, where they are is excellent, but cautious. Oh, I'm going to be cautious in my analysis because while, yes, I'm very excited about the 5-0 stout, I picked us to start really bad, like 1-4, 1-5, and then get really hot when the schedule lightened up. And then I said we'd be a wild card team and we'd win a playoff game. That was kind of the expectation for me. The season has kind of played out closer to you. You didn't predict 5-0, but you had us beating the Giants and San Fran, and I think the Jets. So you had us above 500 before stumbling down the stretch and ultimately finishing below 500 and missing out on the playoffs and everything. So that's where my caution comes from. And that's not just me throwing shade at you for, picking this team to win. Was it 7 or 8 games? I don't even remember.
8, I believe.
Yeah. Somehow I did not put that in a little spreadsheet. But I believe it was 8 games. The Vikings need to go, 3-9 down the stretch for that to be the case. So, but I do love what you did in terms of I wanted to throw this in, and this is sorry for springing this on you. I do want to bring up we make game predictions every Thursday on this show, and we keep track of our total win-loss record and then how many points we were off on the result. Will has done something very cheeky in that before the season started, he predicted us to go 8-9, and he has, in the game picks, only picked us to lose a single game. He's just been he's hedging his bets. So I feel a little cheated that you're not sticking to your guns all the way on that, but I guess the knowledge changed after we watched, the first 3 games. It's kind of hard to pick against this team, but yeah, I'm going to say cautiously optimistic. I've rambled for too long. I want to know what you think of this 5-0 stout, because you were, like you said, a little bit more pessimistic about this season than I was. And man, five wins, a bye week where we all got to just take a breath and enjoy our division. Everyone in it got a win. Everyone in the division is on at least a 2-game win streak. So, it's been kind of crazy. But what are your overall thoughts of this 5-0 Minnesota Vikings team?
Yeah, it's quite pleasantly surprising, I think, in simple terms. I think in some ways, though, when I look back on what I thought of this team preseason and what I think of this team now, it's obviously better than I thought it was. I thought they would win the first 2, and then I actually picked them to lose a 5-game losing streak right away after that. I think I had more faith in the Jets preseason and more faith in, or not really more faith in the Jets. I just felt it was going to be one of those games. And then I had more faith in the Rams than I think the Rams are showing. They've also got some injuries, but so I had them going on a long slide that sort of would tank their season. I think, when I think about what I had sort of imagined this team to be was a good defense, a really good roster, and mediocre quarterback play. And we've sort of got that with just Darnold being obviously far better than mediocre. He's been sort of the piece that has pleasantly surprised and overachieved, at least in my mind. And I've been over why I think, he's been maybe better than advertised, but also not as good as people think he is, and we don't have to get into that now. But um, the thing that I'm not surprised by is the defense. I mean, sure, first and second and third in every possible category, like that's maybe the one thing that um, I didn't think they'd be this good out of the gate against. I mean, Jordan, four of these five teams have been, you know, elevated to Super Bowl contention, at the very least playoff teams, and they wiped the floor with a couple of them and hung on to beat the other two. And it just it what they've been able to do to these opposing offenses is a lot more impressive than I think I would have even imagined for a team that I felt had a good defense going in. So,
But Will, don't you know? Really quick, don't you know that they're like 28th in pass defense, and don't pay attention to like how the games went. That it requires too much like knowledge of football. The stats say that they have a bad pass defense, even though they jump out to 3 possession leads in every game because the pass defense shuts the other team down. I don't know. I think that's funny.
And Jordan, they also have the most interceptions in the league with allegedly the worst pass defense. So you can try and figure out a way around that one. But I think if you really think about why they have given up so many passing yards and also why they've had so many interceptions, is because in all of these games, all five of them, they have led basically from start to finish. And so what does that require the opposing team to do? Just to drop back and sling it. And so you're going to give up some chunk plays. You're going to give up way more pass yards than you are rush yards. But then you're also going to be able to intercept the ball because you got Jordan Love throwing YOLO balls into the end zone against experienced cornerbacks. So you're going to get plenty of interceptions as well. And like you said, context is key here. The Vikings have literally led the entire season other than 3 minutes and 26 seconds. So
Against the Giants, by the way, in week 1.
Against the Giants after the CJ Ham fumble. So I guess I can't say the entire season because obviously they were tied at 0 for a lot of the season, or for a lot of each game. But regardless, they have not trailed much. Requires a lot of passing by the opposition, especially when you're up by 28 points at Lambeau Field. The other thing that I do want to say that I was excited for, hopeful for, but my goodness, the free agent acquisitions have been home runs. Almost all of them. Like Jihad Ward has been fine. He hasn't been like, changing lives. But Aaron Jones, in the words of the coach, has changed the team. And then you've got Blake Cashman on a $7 million contract. Jonathan Grenard on like a $14 million contract per year. Andrew Van Ginkel is playing out of his mind. And all these guys were sort of, they weren't the top of the line free agents, but they were experienced. And I think what they like to talk about, guys with something to prove. And they have all come in and played way over their contracts and given this team a huge lift on the defensive end, especially. Aaron Jones is a whole nother thing. He's been fantastic. But I just wanted to call that out because I think that the free agent acquisitions have been marvelous.
Yeah, the free agents have made this team, and we're not going to do it. We're not going to talk about where we got the money from, but I see why there are people that still talk about, Cousins and all that, and because it is telling that we signed so many guys, and it's not normal that you have an off season where you go from being like a defense that last season we went on a stretch where it was really good, but then it got banged up. There was no depth. It really started to get exposed. We had to blitz to manufacture pressure. I think it's telling that we went out, and it seems like every free agent has made an impact, and it was kind of fun before the bye. We'll see what happens the rest of the season, but this first 5 weeks, it was every week it felt like it was a new free agent, and it was like, welcome to the team. And week 1 it was Van Ginkel, and week 2 I think San Fran was the Blake Cashman game, and Houston, it was Jonathan Grenard, and like it was just like it's been all of these different guys going all the way down to the Jets game in London, where oh man, we're up by 6. The Jets are driving. There's under a minute to go. If they score, it's not looking good, and Stephon Gilmore gets a pick and ends the game and says, "Yep, I knew he was going to throw a back shoulder, so I just sat on the back shoulder and it fell into my lap." Like. It's just been a beautiful thing, and it's just been absolute, I don't want to say domination by this defense, but it's been pretty good stuff from the defense. And I think you can make the case that, and this is, I've been cooking this take up, been stirring the pot and thinking about this, because I keep listening to the national media talk about how, like, the Lions are actually the best team in the NFC. And I'm not here to say who the better team is. We're not going to play, are the Vikings better than Team X? Tune in, tomorrow for the Vikings-Lions pre-game show type thing. But the reason that no one wants to take the undefeated Vikings, there are 2 undefeated teams, remind you, it's us and the Chiefs. The reason they don't want to take them serious is because, well, the QB is not that good. And I just want to remind everybody that 7 seasons ago, 2017, the championship game weekend in the NFL featured the following QBs. It was Case Keenum, Nick Foles, Blake Buttholes, and Tom Brady. And obviously Tom Brady wiped the floor with all of them, won the Super Bowl by 1,000,000 points, and has, 18 Super Bowl wins. Oh, wait. No, if I recall, the Jags and Blake Buttholes actually had Tom Brady on the ropes. If I recall correctly, there was a bad call by the refs that kind of stole that game from Jacksonville. Case Keenum did get the floor wiped with him, but by Nick Foles, not by, MVP level candidate QB. It was by a QB that, a backup. And then the backup went on to win the Super Bowl because he had a good defense. So let's remember that there are 22 guys. There's 11 players on each side of the ball at all times. And yes, Sam is incredibly important, and he's going to have to continue to play. I'm going to say the Jets game was the bottom. That can be the worst he looks. And San Francisco's probably like peak. He played pretty well against San Francisco, I feel like. I don't know. I'm trying to... Maybe Houston. I don't think he turned the ball over against Houston. So we got to find that median. We got to stay within that range of outcomes. We can't have anything that tanks too low or anything like that. But, yeah, man, I think the sky's the limit on this team. The defense is just outstanding, and I think Sam is playing. I don't think he's going to be an MVP candidate. I think that's all, that's all fun and fine and dandy to talk about, 2 weeks into the season, like Sam's an MVP guy, and he's not winning the MVP, but if he can not tank this team and just manage the game, yeah, he's like an upgraded version of Case Keenum, in my opinion, where it's like, yeah, he's going to go out there, he's going to make the passes, he's got a lot of weapons to lean on. We haven't even talked about the fact Hawkinson's, inbound, probably not against Detroit, but maybe against LA in a few, in about a week. So, yeah, man, I've been really impressed with Sam. I want to get your opinion on Sam and his performance, and if you think he'll keep it up, or if you think... you picked us to go sub 500. If you want to amend that and maybe write an apology to Sam, I'll take it. Live on air right now.
Well, I definitely do owe Sam an apology. I don't... Now, I think to be fair to myself, I don't think I was predicting Sam to go out there and have like a 12 touchdown, 20 interception season or something like that. So I wasn't... predicting the second coming of Deshaun Watson.
Oh boy.
But yeah, I mean he's been really good. And the thing that I think is maybe a little bit concerning is, and this is something that Alec Lewis pointed out on his podcast, that Sam Darnold's turnover worthy play rate, which basically means what percentage of plays are worthy of a turnover. So the ones where you throw a pick, it's like, well, duh, that's worthy of a turnover. But then also one where you make a throw that you shouldn't have made, it should have been picked and you got lucky. That also probably would count, or, fumbles or whatever. And his turnover worthy play rate is right around the same as his career average. It's like a little bit better. Career average is at about 4.1, and I think this year it's at about 3.8. Which is higher than the average starter in the NFL. So, in that regard, yes, it's a little better than maybe his career was prior, but it's something that I am still a little bit concerned about because every game there's a few of these moments where you just sort of clench your fist because he made a decision that was not a good one. And we can go over those. We don't have to. So those are the things that just concern me because when it comes to stuff where, do I trust Sam Darnold to drive us down the field when we need points? Frankly, I would say yes. When the Vikings have needed points this season, he'll go get them. Whether it was San Francisco week 2, he drove the field just to get a field goal, put the Vikings up by 9, basically put the game away. Similar thing in Green Bay. Happened a couple times where they got the field goal to go up by 9. They also then had a chance to, either go up 12 or go up 16 or whatever. In my opinion, if they get a better spot on that Jalen Naylor end around, that's probably the game. I thought the spot wasn't very. I mean, it is what it is. Spots are hard to give, but so I feel when the Vikings need a play and a drive, he goes out and makes the drive. So in that regard, I don't have too many qualms about him as the starting quarterback of this team. I think he's more than up to the task. I think he's shown that, and I think he deserves a ton of respect for it and a ton of credit for it. My concern is more sort of, I mean, you could even call it like the middle 45 minutes of the game where you're sort of in the flow, but he feels like he can just make an extra hero play, and so that's really the only concern because turnovers have killed this team in the past. They still have too many on the year. They have 9 turnovers. Good thing though, the defense has 13 takeaways, so you make up for that with the way the defense is playing. But if you can get that turnover rate down, especially from the quarterback, you're going to be in really good shape. So we'll talk about this more because we'll talk about this on the second sort of portion of this week's shows with the Lions coming up. But I do think the Lions defense now, for really the first time in the Dan Campbell era, present a real challenge. I have not felt like the Lions defense have been able to put up much of a fight. In years past, they're sort of ridden by their offense and maybe some timely plays defensively at best. But if you look at their numbers across the board, they've been pretty stout. Maybe save that Seattle game where they gave up 1,000 yards and only 29 points. But anything else on your Vikings preseason predictions that you would like to amend or adjust before you make fun of me for the Jaguars?
No, and I'm gonna get made fun of as well, so I'm not gonna poke too much fun at you here. I just really quickly want to point out that Will currently wins the pick'ems. He's predicted the games at a 4-1 record. I've predicted the Vikings at a 3-2 record. I did not buy into them. I picked them to lose to San Fran and Houston in back-to-back weeks. That kind of tanked me, I'm going to be honest. So Will also has been 69, nice, 69 points off of his score predictions, whereas I have been 75. So it's still a tight race, anybody's game, and we don't really keep track of the game balls. I do want to say the Justin Jefferson thing, that was like one of my hot takes before the season, that he was going to go for like 2,100 yards, have this outstanding season. I think that's off the table. He's played really well. I'm really happy with what he's done. He just hasn't been this fantasy must, oh my gosh, what a superstar. He's going to be the number one guy. Like, I still think he's the best receiver in football, but it feels like O'Connell is using him as more of a decoy this season, which I'm A-okay with, because it makes the entire offense look a lot better than, well, we have to get Jefferson the ball so he can get his stats. So I'm okay with it, as a fan, as a fantasy owner. Shucks, wish I would have drafted Saquon with the 3rd overall pick. But, it is what it is. Let's make fun of ourselves really quick here. We'll do a little feels good, feels bad NFL edition. feels good for me. I think the Bucks look like Super Bowl contenders, and I know they had that game against Denver that was like, ugh. And then that Atlanta game, they let old Coco throw for 500 yards, and it's like, can a team that does that win the Super Bowl? I say yes. Their secondary's banged up. I think they will get healthy. I'm gonna stick with the Bucks winning the Super Bowl, being the Super Bowl champions, but also feels good. I picked the Vikings to be a wild card team, so maybe that should be a feels bad because wild card might be too low. I mean, that we might be talking about. I mean, as of right now, they're the 1 seed, so it's theirs to lose. We're only 6 weeks into the season, so we'll see what happens. But and then feels bad. I'm not gonna give myself flack for the Dolphins. Okay, Tua got injured. I can't. I didn't predict that. If Tua stays healthy, I think that team is still doing okay, and I think they put themselves into a wild card spot. I picked Vegas to be a wild card team. They look so bad. Like, they don't look competent. They beat Baltimore in week 2, and I was like, I'm so back. Like, we're so back that's going to happen. It's not going to happen. I put a lot of stock fantasy-wise in that team as well, and that's not paying dividends. I thought they were just going to be a good defense that ran the ball efficiently. They can't run the ball. Their defense hasn't been great. It's been tough, so this is my walk of shame. Feels bad. I'm giving up on the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't think they are a playoff team. And I don't know who I would pick. What did you say?
Go ahead. I was going to say, you got the star player shoving coaches.
Yeah, not ideal.
It's not great.
Not ideal at all. Yeah, I mean, I don't know who I would give the spot to. Like, maybe the Jets. I don't love the Jets, but like I had the Raiders making it as the 7 seed, so the Jets, Denver might be in that conversation because their defense is really good. Like, I don't really know, but let's go to you. What feels good, feels bad about the NFL predictions we made before the season?
Well, we've already stomped on my Jacksonville grave, so we can just give up the ghost on that one. I mean, 1-5. Are you kidding me?
It's pretty bad.
It's pathetic. It looks like that Trevor Lawrence contract was a mistake. My other feels bad. I can't write off the Bengals yet just because the Bengals are weird, and it seems like there's always this thing that happens with them where they look awful and then they turn it around. So I will hold off on making a final referendum on the Bengals, but a 17-7 win against the Giants does not inspire me for my Bengals winning the AFC North prediction, but I will hold firm on that. A quick aside from my predictions and just a feels good in general. Jordan, the Houston Texans are 5-1, and the one game they lost was to the Vikings by about 100 points. So that feels pretty good.
Yeah, it does feel good. It does indeed feel good. Which I love looking at the spreadsheet, like our little points off section. Both of us against Houston. You picked them to win the game. Oh wait, no, you didn't. Did you pick that as a loss? No, okay, so you did pick that as a loss. So we both picked them to lose that, and it's like we've been off. Like I'll do my column here. I was off by 12 points, 16 points, 12 points, 4 points. The Houston game, we were both off by 30 plus points because we both picked a close loss, and it ended up being a blowout win because they won that game by 27 points. Who the hell saw that coming? Like, I don't know, man. It feels good, but
so good. Let's see. My other feels bad. Man, my Rams, dude. Again, injuries have not helped, but I had the Rams of the NFC Championship game, Jordan, and they can't seem to win a game, let alone make it to the championship game. So that's not great.
Yeah.
Feels bad in that regard. I mean, I was laughing last night at the Dallas Cowboys losing by 40 at home.
Yep.
Third blowout home loss of the season. They're 3-0 on the road, 0-3 at home. And all the losses have been blowouts, I think. Or no, the Baltimore game, they came back, but they were down by like 20, so it felt like a blowout. I was just hoping that I had not picked Dallas to make the playoffs after the game last night. And then I checked the spreadsheet, and yeah, that feels bad. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. They look spiritless. They look gutless. They look gumptionless. Their
Mike
head
Zimmer's
coach is just saying
defense.
stuff like, yeah, Mike Zimmer's defense is just, it's just an open door. Like there's not
Yeah.
even a door there. It's just like the door frame and there's guys just streaming through it. I mean, Mike McCarthy is just, you look at him after every touchdown that his defense gives up and all he's saying is just wow. Like he doesn't even have anything to like fix it. It's just it's all broken and they look horrible. Feels good though. Honestly, what feels the best right now from my predictions wise is probably the Bears and the Falcons.
Yeah.
I think we had all sort of, at least I had sort of, banked on the fact that the Bears were going to have an early season sort of easy schedule and they were going to sort of build up this, bank of wins that they'd be able to sit on. And so far that's working. I mean, they're 4-2. They're beating up on bad teams. Caleb Williams is looking pretty good, which obviously isn't great news for Vikings fans, but that prediction, although it looked pretty shaky at the beginning of the season, is starting to shape up a little bit. And the Falcons, same story. They were about a play away from being 0-3 to start the season. The Kirko to Drake London walk-off touchdown in Philly, basically, in week 2, sort of saved their start of the season, and now they're sort of on a roll. And it looks like Kirk Cousins has found his footing again, literally and figuratively. I think we both talked about this, Jordan. I don't know what to make of that defense. It feels like Jesse Bates is the only guy in that defense that I trust, and everybody else is sort of. Well, I guess I got to give Grady Jarrett some credit. He's fantastic, but it really doesn't feel like a defense that I'm intimidated by, and I don't know. I feel like they're gonna have to put up points if they're gonna want to keep winning and
Yeah.
end up actually beating the Bucks in that division. So that's kind of it, I would say. I mean, I guess maybe the other feels good is probably my Ravens pick. I was so down on them after 2 weeks. They were 0-2, and they've rattled off 4 in a row. So
We both had them as a wild card team,
yeah.
and I think our predictions would look a lot better if we just swapped the Ravens and Bengals and then had the Bengals as wild card teams. I think our AFC predictions we'd feel a lot better about. But yeah, man, I like talking about the Falcons, not because Coke plays there, but because they are an interesting team. They have so many wide receivers, it's crazy. Like, they've got London, Mooney, Ray McLeod, Kyle Pitts. Then you've got 2 running backs that I think could stout on just about any team in the league, save for like Baltimore, like with Bijan and Algier. I mean, their offense is pretty spooky. But like you said, I don't know what to make of the defense, and I think the NFC South is actually going to be a fun one to watch as the year winds down. Again, we're in week 6 going into 7, so it's not like we anything is set in stone. But that's kind of where we're at. So, podcast audience, we're going to take a quick break here. YouTube audience, this is it for you guys. We'll talk Lions with you tomorrow. Podcast audience, we'll talk Lions with you right after. I say goodbye to the YouTube audience. YouTube audience, follow Will at Will Badloos. Check out the show on X at LTB Vikings. Check out the Bad Loser blog, VikingsTerritory.com. Mash that subscribe button, blah, blah, blah. You know what to do. All right, Skull, y'all. We'll see you guys later.